I never thought I would find myself in such a situation. For years, I was the perfect wife, the woman who stood by her husband through thick and thin. Jason and I had been together for over a decade, building a life that many would envy. We had a beautiful home, stable careers, and what seemed like an unbreakable bond. But somewhere along the way, the spark that once ignited our passion slowly faded, leaving behind a hollow shell of what used to be a loving marriage. It started when I met Ethan. He was a 22-year-old intern at my workplace, full of life and energy. Unlike the men I usually worked with, who were always burdened with responsibilities, Ethan was carefree, always laughing, always seeing the world through fresh eyes. His enthusiasm was contagious, and I found myself drawn to it. At first, our conversations were innocent, casual chats during coffee breaks, small jokes exchanged in the hallways. But the more time I spent with him, the more I realized how much I missed feeling desired, feeling seen. Jason and I had grown distant, barely speaking beyond the necessities of daily life. Intimacy had become a rarity, and I longed for the days when my heart raced at the sight of someone. One evening, after an exhausting day at work, Ethan and I found ourselves alone in the office. We were the last ones there, finishing up an important project. As the clock ticked past midnight, he suggested we grab a drink to celebrate our hard work. I hesitated at first. After all, I was a married woman, but the thought of going home to a husband who barely acknowledged me made the decision easy. We ended up at a cozy bar nearby, the dim lighting and soft music creating an intimate atmosphere. We talked for hours, sharing stories, dreams, and regrets. I opened up to him in ways I hadn't with Jason in years. Ethan listened with genuine interest, his eyes never leaving mine. There was something intoxicating about being the center of someone's attention again. One drink led to another, and before I knew it, we were walking back to my car. The cool night air did little to calm the heat rising in me. As I turned to say goodnight, he took my hand, his touch sending shivers down my spine. I should have walked away, but I didn't. I let him pull me closer, let his lips find mine in a kiss that reignited a fire I thought had long been extinguished. That night changed everything. What started as a moment of weakness turned into a secret affair. Ethan made me feel alive again, reminded me of the woman I used to be, the woman I had lost in the monotony of marriage. We met in hidden corners, stolen moments that became the highlight of my days. With him, I felt free, unburdened by the responsibilities of being a wife. But the thrill came with a price. Guilt gnawed at me every time I returned home to Jason. He wasn't a bad husband, just distant, distracted. I wondered if he suspected anything, if he noticed the change in me. I told myself I would end it, that this was just a phase, but every time Ethan smiled at me, every time he touched me, I forgot all my resolve. It wasn't until Jason confronted me that reality crashed down. He had found the messages, texts filled with longing and passion. His face was a mixture of hurt and anger, betrayal evident in his eyes. I had no words, no excuses that could undo what I had done. Our marriage didn't survive my betrayal. The trust we had built over the years was shattered, beyond repair. Ethan was never meant to be my future. He was a temporary escape, a reminder of something I had lost. But in trying to reclaim my youth, I had destroyed the very foundation of my life. Looking back, I realized that cheating didn't solve anything. It didn't fix my loneliness, didn't bring back the love I had once shared with Jason. It only left me with regret, and a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Passion fades, but betrayal leaves a permanent scar. As time passed, I had to rebuild myself from the ground up. I moved into a small apartment, alone for the first time in over a decade. The silence was deafening at first, but it also forced me to reflect. I attended therapy, trying to understand why I had done what I did, trying to heal the wounds I had caused myself and Jason. I learned that I should have communicated my unhappiness instead of seeking solace elsewhere. I should have fought for my marriage instead of running from it. Ethan eventually moved on. He was young, with a whole life ahead of him. What we had was never meant to last, and deep down, I always knew that. He was a fleeting chapter in my life, one filled with passion but also deep regret. I saw pictures of him on social media, traveling, dating, living his best life. And I knew that he had no regrets, no scars from what had happened between us. I envied that. As for Jason, he deserved better than what I gave him. He eventually found someone new, someone who loved him the way I should have. I saw them together once at a coffee shop, laughing, happy. It hurt, but I knew I had no one to blame but myself. I had lost the love of my life because I had been too caught up in my own selfish desires. Regret is a heavy burden to carry, but it's one I have learned to live with. If I could go back in time, I would have done things differently. I would have talked to Jason, told him how I felt, fought for our marriage instead of breaking it. But life doesn't give us do-overs. It only gives us lessons, and this was mine. A lesson I would never forget.